The college football experience, Duke Blue Devils 2023 season preview episode on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It's brought to you by Bird Dog Shorts. Dominate the summer with an amazing pair of shorts and a free Yeti-style tumbler when you order over at birddogs.com/pool. That's birddogs.com/pool.
This is Jim Mora, and you're listening to SGPN. Let her ride.
Yes, yes, yes. Woo! Welcome. Welcome to the college football experience. Duke Blue Devils 2023 season preview episode. Oh, I'm excited to talk about the Duke Blue Devils. I'm excited for the ACC without the Coastal or the Atlantic. It's going to be, they're all one now. And look, perhaps you're wondering who the hell you're listening to. Well, my name is Colby Swinging Database Dan, a.k.a. Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
I'm probably drinking too much and celebrating too much and not sleeping. Would have killed a normal man, but no, that's gone. The medical advice I got from that was like being hit by lightning. Pretend it never happened and get on with your life.
Yes. Look, this is a proud program. I'm excited to talk Duke Blue Devils, who, in my mind, proud program, three-time national champion. Yes. Back, two of those might have been in the 1800s, but one was in 1920, undefeated seasons. You got to own them. Mike Elko. Can he get Duke back to – this was a big-time program back in the day, all right? Know your history. Know your history way back in the day. Mad Dog Curtis played for the Blue Devils. Sonny Jurgensen, all right? Go far enough back. The youth probably has no idea who those guys are. Well, go research them, all right? Duke's a quarterback factory. Ben Bennett, Anthony Dilwig, Dave Brown, Daniel Jones, Thaddeus Lewis, Spence Fisher. Go on and on and on, and they might have another one. I am joined by my co-host. Give it up for Duke Blue Devil fan himself, lifelong Duke Blue Devil fan. I remember him as a child. I was trying to watch college football, and he'd come in and say, I'm trying to watch this Fred Goldsmith, Robert Baldwin, Spence Fisher Duke team. Get the hell out of the way. Give it up for the rooftop IPA drinking, homebrew making, Tobacco Road living, the free lack giving, former Herndon Basketball League MVP. Give it up for NC Nick in the place to be.
There we go. What's going on, man?
What's going on is Duke football is recruiting really well right now. And Mike Elko, year one. Folks, you might think, okay, it's Duke. They went 9-4, but those 4 losses were by a combined 16 points. They were 3 scores away from being undefeated, essentially, if you look at it like that. But, I mean, you go back and look at those losses a season ago, considering how bad that the situation was. David Cutcliffe did a good job at Duke, but the final couple of years, really bad. And when you look and say, okay, 8-point loss at Kansas, it's a 1-score game, 3-point loss in overtime to Georgia Tech. That's a bad loss, but for year one, you were right there. And then should have beat North Carolina.
Don't bring it up. Don't bring it up. It still stings.
And then a 2-point loss to Pitt. That was a 2-point conversion. So, I mean, very, very close bowl win against UCF in the bowl game. I mean, I am really buying into Mike Elko. He was an assistant with Dave Clawson for 12 years. 12 years with Dave Clawson. Then he coached with Brian Kelly and then Jimbo Fisher. You're a Duke fan. Year one. I mean, the win total was like 3 last year.
Yeah, 3.5. So a couple of things. First off, you forgot Sean Renfree, another Duke quarterback, spent some time on the Falcons. If you remember him from about a decade ago or so.
I do.
Don't discredit Sean Renfree. But no, I mean, Duke football had gotten pretty bad. Look, Coach Cutcliffe really resurrected this program from the complete depths of college football where Duke had, winless seasons. So we all the Duke fans, we love Coach Cutcliffe, but it was apparent that the game had passed him by and that we needed to make a change. And I was telling you guys this first because the last 3 years under Cutcliffe in ACC play, that's 2019 through 2021, Duke was 4-22. They had some really ugly losses, like 49-6 to a losing Syracuse team in 2019. 48-0 against an average Miami team in 2020. And then things got so bad in 2021. They lost the last 6 games of the year, all to ACC opponents, obviously, by an average score of 50-14. I mean, really making the ACC look like the SEC West or the NFC East of the 80s or something,
Now, but that's why it's so great that, that's why last year was such a great coaching job.
And me and you both said on the same preview last year, we both loved the hire of Mike Elko because he had that Wake Forest defense, like ranked nationally in like the 30s or 40s.
Yeah.
Which is unheard of for a small school like Wake Forest, who's more of a finesse offensive team. And then he did the same thing at Texas A&M. And Duke needed a defensive-minded head coach because, their offense was always solid under Cutcliffe, but their defense, I mean, really, really fell off towards the end of his tenure. With that said, me and you did not expect 8 regular season wins, 9 total wins, beating UCF.
And no blowouts. Every game was a 1-score. Every loss was a 1-score game.
Sure.
So they were in every single game on the schedule. Now I know they didn't play Clemson and they didn't play,
Florida State.
Yeah. So, but it doesn't matter. But it doesn't matter to me. They were so bad. That is an unbelievable first year. And I hope Duke, and I know college sports is in this interesting era where, there's talk of the ACC's destruction every day and, the conference
exaggerated
alignment, but also like there is something to this where TV execs are in charge. And I'm glad to see, I know Duke's recruiting really well right now.
Top 20 class in the country right now. Obviously there's still a lot of recruiting left for the 24 rankings, but I mean, this is highest that they've never been this high before.
They need to go all in on football. Look, we know Duke's a basketball school. They'll always be a basketball school,
sure.
But they need to go all in football and make themselves, because I get it, like Duke basketball is going to be able to sell itself. But if we're at this pivotal point, and it's not just Duke, I feel like all these schools where if you're not going all in on football, you could get left behind. So,
and if you're Duke, if you can combine your blue blood basketball program with, like a solid or a pretty good football program, Duke's not going to become, a playoff contender every year or anything. But if they can get to a status where they're a winning program, consistently cranking out 8, 9, 10-win seasons, then obviously that makes the whole university so much more attractive to all those TV execs who now are in charge.
Yes, and to me, they could be. Like, you look at Duke's, I get it. They're a private school. Their enrollment's not, something gigantic, but
tiny. They
got money. All right. And Duke alums got money. So in the NIL era, I think, they could be very good. So if you're a Duke alum, if you're a Duke fan, I want to see you guys go all in on football. It seems like you got the right guy. It seems like things are going in that direction.
For sure.
Let's go. What do they say at Field of Dreams? Go the distance. All right. Look, we are going to go the distance and talk about the offense, the defense, the special teams, the transfer portal, the 2023 schedule. But before we do all that, I want to tell you that the College Football Experience Duke Blue Devils 2023 season preview episode is brought to you by Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs make you look good. All right. Bird Dogs are stretch khaki shorts that are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving you a truly sculpted look. You put on some Bird Dogs, you're going to look like Leitner in 91, buddy. All right. So they fit way better than regular shorts. regular shorts are made of that stiff, restricting cotton. How many hikes you been on where you've been complaining? I'm sick of this stiff, restricting cotton. I've done it. All right. Bird Dogs fixed this issue by inventing cloud knit fabric. It looks just like khakis, but stretches so you get a way slimmer fit without you having to sacrifice all that movement. Bird Dogs also uses anti-stink sweat wicking fabric. All right. So maybe you're going to Wallace Wade and you're sitting out there tailgating and you haven't had a chance, you get done catching the 3:30 game. You've been out you were tailgating and you just been out in the sun, sweating, smelling like God knows what, you know what I mean? And, you forgot you got a dinner with some hot date. Don't have time to shower. You show up with your Bird Dogs on. They got you covered because they got anti-stink sweat wicking fabric. It's gonna keep you cool. It's gonna keep you dry, and also make sure you don't smell like the old Tijuana River. All right. So, check it out, folks. Go to birddogs.com/pool. Enter the promo code POOL, POOL, for a free Yeti style tumbler. Yes, that's birddogs.com/pool for a free Yeti style tumbler. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off. We can promise you that. All right, we are back on the Duke Blue Devils 2023 season preview episode. I'm really excited for this year. And we don't have the Coastal and the Atlantic anymore. That's going to be compelling. I think if you're a Duke fan, though, you're saying, man, I wish I had one more year of that, right?
Let's just look at this year's schedule, which I know we'll go game by game, but this year's schedule compared to last year's schedule, this year's schedule is a whole lot harder. So we don't have the luxury of being in the Coastal, getting all those mediocre teams. We're getting the hardest part of they're the best teams from the Atlantic this year. So if you're a Duke fan, maybe you kind of miss the Coastal, but overall, I think it's a good thing for the league. So, and you know what? We're not running from anybody. We're not afraid that our schedule's a bit tougher this year. Let's go.
Let's go. All right. Well, look, in the portal, we grade the portal. And, when we started doing this show 5-6 years ago, it was, there was like 6 guys. Now, like per team, there'd be like 3, 4, now with the exception of our Army, Air Force, and Navy, I mean, the portal's pretty large. Sometimes when you get to the private schools like Stanford and Duke and Northwestern, it's not as big.
Yeah.
But here's what we got going. They lost offensive lineman Dustin Hall to the East Carolina Pirates. Wait. I don't know if I can trust this because Scotty Montgomery, Thomas Sirk didn't really work out. This might be another mole.
Well, a lot of people go to Duke for academics. Nobody goes to ECU for academics. But Hall was a reserve, so
you
go
to
luck in
ECU
Greenville
for street smarts. All right, all right. You know how to handle a Jaeger bomb. All right, there's education in that.
That's true.
They also lost offensive lineman Michael Purcell to the Maryland Terrapins. Disgusting. The old rivals, the old ACC rivals. You lost wide receiver Eric Weatherly to Bucknell. Bucknell needs offense. I watched a few Bucknell games. Whew. Offensive lineman Dan Volpe is in the portal. Never landed at a spot, so who knows what happens here. Defensive end Caleb Open is in the portal, never landed. Defensive lineman Ahmad Craig in the portal, never landed, but defensive lineman Christian Rory landed at Texas State, the Sun Belt. Offensive lineman Elijah Wooten is in the portal, didn't land anywhere. Offensive tackle Ron Carr headed to the FCS at Illinois State. Defensive end Trey Brown didn't land anywhere. Offensive lineman Addison Penn didn't land anywhere. Linebacker Syed Stevens did land at Old Dominion. Tight end Matt Smith went to UMass. Don Brown. Cornerback Troy Davis in the portal still didn't land anywhere. Wide receiver Daryl Harding to the Buffalo Bulls. He might even start for the Bulls. And I think the big one here, linebacker Rocky Shelton to the Miami Hurricanes. A lot. Just going through that, it seemed like Elko. Year one he comes in. Seemed like he kind of cleaned up the whole line of scrimmage there.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, hey, we weren't cutting it. Let's, some of these guys got to go. It seems like, I don't know if they were cut or what, but, they haven't found homes. A lot of those guys haven't found homes yet. Now,
and these guys didn't start last year, and they out of all those guys, hardly any of them were really contributed. The linebacker you mentioned that's going to Miami, he had I think like 10 tackles on the year, but I think he was hurt for some of it. So yeah, I mean I think his depth can be missed, especially that's one of their weaker spots is linebacker. But all those guys you mentioned, they really didn't contribute much at all last year. So as far as the people they lost, not too bad at all.
Yeah, so then the incoming transfers, offensive lineman Ben Hoytink from Penn, the Quakers. You can find some diamonds in the rough from the FCS. I know, you just say, hey, that's a guy from Penn. If you look at Florida State, part of their big turnaround season, arguably their best defensive player was Jared Verse, who was a FCS transfer from Albany. So keep an eye out for that. Offensive tackle Jake Hornibrook. This guy started like over 23 games at Stanford. This is a great get. This is great get for this team. Also, cornerback Al Blades from Miami, who also has started a ton of games. And he's a Blades. Brian Blades, Benny Blades, Al Blades Sr. We remember watching all those guys. This is a huge get. And I think that's getting the secondary right, I think, is a point of emphasis for Elko coming into this year. He also gets cornerback Miles Jones from Texas A&M, who Elko coached while he was at Texas A&M. And
you could argue, you might be arguing that those two guys maybe be even more important than Hornibrook because Duke's offensive line returned a lot. It wasn't necessarily an area of need. I mean, I love the get with Hornibrook, don't get me wrong, but secondary was an area of need. And I think Blades and Jones should be able to step in pretty nicely day one. And I think Blades is definitely going to start. Jones is probably going to be their nickel cornerback, I would think, but I think he's going to be on the field a lot as well. So I love those two pickups.
Well, another thing is, what's crazy is A&M from a recruiting standpoint so Elko was at A&M 2 years ago. Their defense got more talented according to the recruiting rankings, but their defense got worse without Mike Elko there.
For sure.
So just to show how good of a coach he is. They also brought in an offensive tackle, Scott Elliott from Harvard. So getting a couple Ivy League offensive linemen. Also offensive lineman Jacob Long from Angelo State. Going deep on the trails there. And that's what they did in the portal. I still think they won the portal because I got Hornibrook, Blades, and Jones as guys that are going to be on the field pretty often.
Right.
And I think they won the transfer portal. You?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, Duke has 18 returning starters this year, which means I don't think they lost any starters from last year to the portal, and they're bringing in a couple guys that will either start or get major minutes. So I think you chalk it up as a W for Elko.
Yeah, and I think the big thing here, and we'll talk about it offensively, Kevin John's back at offense coordinator. Came over from Memphis the year prior. 31st in scoring offense a season ago, 39th in rush offense, 67th in pass offense, 43rd in total offense. And star quarterback Riley Leonard is back for his junior season. Now, this is a guy who was I saw Elko talk about this. He was tampered with, SEC teams, Big Ten teams saying, hey, we're going to offer you more money. Come play here. You're damn good. And he stays at Duke. Elko basically said, like, hey, we're building something here. You can leave, but, we think your value is best here. And I agree. I think, Duke's got a great amount of quarterbacks that have gone pro, most recently Daniel Jones, and I think they got something going. I'm glad to see him stay, and I think he made the right decision. How about you, NC?
For sure. So he played a little bit as a freshman, but really kind of came out of nowhere last year in his sophomore year. His first year, as the main starter, starting every game, and he completed 64% of his passes, threw for about 3,000 yards, 20 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, and he ran for almost 700 yards and 13 touchdowns. So he was careful with the ball. He offered you, dual threat capabilities, and he's only going to get better. I've seen some lists that have him like a top 3 or top 5 NFL draft prospect for next year. So not only is he a legit college quarterback, but, he has, pro aspirations as well. So I think getting him back is huge. I think he is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the country.
That's so huge that he comes back. Also, Jordan Waters is back. Their top 3 rushers are back from a year ago. Jordan Waters and Jaquez Moore, and also Jaylen Coleman. Their top 3 wideouts. Actually, you could make a case their top 4 wideouts are back. Jason Calhoun, Jordan Moore, Sahmir, Hagans, and Eli Pancol all back. Their tight end back. How do you pronounce the tight end's name? Nicky Dalmolin?
Dalmolin. Yeah. And you also, it's Eli Pancol. But I think it said Pancol or something. No worries, man.
Yeah.
But I really, at receiver, Calhoun and Moore, those are both, all ACC caliber players. Jordan Moore is actually, he was a former quarterback, and that's who Riley Leonard beat out last year. And so they moved him over to receiver. All he did was catch 60 balls for 650 yards. He's more of the possession guy, while Calhoun is more of a big play threat. But yeah, I mean, and going to running back here, it's a committee approach. All three of those guys are solid. I don't think any one of them is like a Mateo Durant, who they had a couple years ago, who was really good, but they're solid. And then the receiving group, I think, is probably one of the best in the ACC now. So offensive, skill position wise, I mean, they return pretty much everybody.
Yeah, I mean, returning 18 starters as a team in general. Offensive line, though, Hornibrook penciled in as a starter, the Stanford transfer. They return their center, Jacob Monk, also left guard, Maurice McIntyre, and left tackle, Graham Barton. So in a way, you could say 4 or 5 have starting experience. The only inexperienced guy here would be right guard Justin Pickett, who's penciled in to be the starter at the moment. I like everything I'm reading here.
Yeah, exactly. Elko likes this offensive line. They were solid a year ago with all that talent now having a little bit more experience and the benefit of blocking for a dual threat quarterback. I think this is what you want here. I mean, you want, as an offense, you want a lot of offensive linemen returning, you want your quarterback returning, and you want your OC, especially when you have a defensive minded head coach in Elko. So I think, things are just going to be business like usual. An offense that was good last year should be even better.
Yeah, and you look at what they did defensively a season ago, 31st in scoring defense, 26th in rush defense, but 104th in pass defense. And that's why I think it's so big getting, the right guys, another year in the system, knowing what Elko wants, but bringing in those transfers from A&M and Miami in the defensive backfield. 104th in pass defense. He's not happy with that. 67th in total defense. Look, 2 years ago, so Cutcliffe's final year, they were averaging 39 points a game. The defense was giving up 39 and change. And last year, 22.1 points per game. Mike Elko is going to continue to improve that, I believe. Now, the defense coordinator, Rob Smith's gone, but guess who Elko goes out and gets? Tyler Santucci, who was with him at all his previous stops at A&M and at Notre Dame, and I think even Wake. So they're in stride there. I feel like that's going to be fine. And the entire what's that?
Yeah, I was going to say, last year they had to replace their entire secondary. So I think coming into the year, Elko knew that he could only do so much with the DBs that he had, and that's why their pass defense was awful. But I think this year, not only are they more experienced, you got talent coming in from the portal, but I think you're just about to get at it. Their defensive line, they return everybody, so a strong defensive line can greatly help kind of a questionable secondary.
Yeah, their entire defensive line is back. Vincent Anthony Jr., R.J. Oben, Jamoyne Franklin, and Dwayne Carter, all back. 1 of 2 back in the linebacking core, led by Dorian Malsey. 2 of 5 in the secondary. Both safeties are back, Jalen Stinson and Brandon Johnson. But once again, I don't even know that those guys will be – I know Stinson will be starting, but bringing in some of your own guys, I think it makes it very interesting to see, what they'll do there. I know Chandler Rivers is another guy they're excited about. I'm just excited about this team, though, man. I think the secondary can't get much worse. 104th in pass defense. In year 2, they're going to understand what he wants more out of that, and bringing in the transfers, I expect them to just be a better secondary and a better defense. So
yeah, I think I think you have to point out that Shaka Hayward, probably their best defensive player last year, the linebacker, he's gone. He graduated. He will be missed. Linebacker is a concern, depth there, and then who's going to fill Hayward's spot. But overall, yeah, they return 8 starters and they bring in a couple big guys from the portal. So I think the defense, the offense is going to be the star of this team, but Elko is just a great defensive mind, and he's proven that wherever he's gone. So I think the defense will improve over last year, which is why I'm high on Duke, even if their schedule's a lot harder.
Yeah, and they bring back kicker and punter. They actually have two capable kickers, Todd Polino and Charlie Ham, and then Porter Wilson. That guy sounds like a Duke guy.
Our guy, Phil Steele, has Duke as the top special teams unit in the ACC.
Yeah, wow. That is a result of good coaching. It's funny. That's one thing Jerry Kill always preaches is that's how, you can steal so many games on special teams. If your special teams is good, whether it's tackling on a kickoff, whether it's returning a kickoff, whether it's blocking a punt, or whether it's kicking a field goal and just being consistent at kicking a field goal or good at punting.
For sure.
That's how you can steal so many games. And it seems like that was somewhat what he did a season ago. Look, we're going to talk the win total here. If you're watching on YouTube, youtube.com/thecollegeexperience. But before we do that, I do gotta tell you that the Duke 2023 season preview is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Yes, Underdog Fantasy is here, and they're giving away $15 million in prizes. Yes, Underdog Pick'em's also a great way to get down on your favorite MLB player props. They also, when college football season comes around, they have great player props for college football as well. You'll hear me talking about them on these very airwaves. There's so many ways to win on Underdog and active in so many different states. Head over to UnderdogFantasy.com. Use that promo code SGPN for 100% deposit bonus up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Promo code SGPN. All right, we are back on the college football experience. And, if you are watching on YouTube, you see this sweet graphic here. Shout out to Cam Kerr. He knows about Mike Elko. He is an A&M graduate. So the best years recently were with
probably misses them.
Yeah, definitely misses them, I would say. And look, you see the win total at 6.5. Now this is a team that won 9 games. They almost won 12-0, 16 points away from going 12-0.
To be fair, they won 8 regular season games, which that's the only thing that matters as far as the win total. But go ahead, finish your thought.
But still, I mean, they were in every game, and you would think year 2 they're going to know the system better.
Sure.
From an offensive standpoint and a defensive standpoint. But at the same time, I think it is fair to say the schedule is much, much more difficult because
I like the challenge, though. I mean, and we'll start with the first game here in a second, but I like the challenge because you have a couple of probably the 2 of the top 10 best programs over the last decade coming to your house in Durham. So really, this is a great challenge, this schedule. But Duke is already ahead of schedule. So even if they match the win total of last year, or even if they don't quite get to it, I think a lot of these games are going to help put Duke football on the map. And hopefully they can at least be competitive in their toughest games, if not maybe pull an upset or 2.
Oh, yes. I mean, look, this is now the non-con, you get Northwestern, but you also get that Notre Dame thing. So you're getting like 10 Power 5s. And then, so the schedule definitely much harder in that regard. So let's get to it because Labor Day, Monday, September 4th, standalone game, the only game on that day. Recruit. This game, look, if you told me you had to have Clemson on the schedule, I think you won on week 1 because Garrett Riley is the new offensive coordinator.
Sure.
Cade Klubnik doesn't have many starts. So I think you want them in early September if you're going to play them. I mean,
sure.
If you're going to beat them, you want that game in early September. Now, having said that, obviously Clemson goes out and does get Garrett Riley. I do expect that offense to be a lot better. We know
can't be much worse than it's been the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. I'm super excited to watch this game. I was trying to go back and look up Mike Elko's history against the Riley or the Air Raid. It's kind of hard to tell. I mean, he did face Leach.
Yeah.
At Mississippi State, but the Rileys kind of do a different style than Leach. I mean, they use parts of Leach's air raid. They're a little bit different. So that's exciting. I got to take Clemson, but I am so intrigued by this game. I think it's one that I wouldn't be shocked if they stole this one because I think you're getting them so early. I hope Duke fans don't sell their tickets to the Clemson fans. Make this a hard environment for this young quarterback with this brand new offensive coordinator. What are you doing here in this game? on Labor Day and see Nick?
I love the game, man. And I wish I could sit here and tell you that I think Duke's going to upset Clemson. Unfortunately, one of the things that's holding back the Duke football program is the lack of a good home field environment. There's going to be a lot of orange in the stands. Look, I'll try to be here for this game. I only live 15 miles away, so there's no reason for me not to be there, but there's going to be a lot of orange in the stands. I want this to be a close, competitive game. I want Duke to look the part, look competitive. I can't say they're going to win the game right now. I have to pick Clemson. Obviously, Clemson is on a different stratosphere than Duke is in football. So I'm going to go Clemson, but I think if Duke is competitive, I think if people can see, a fun offense and a good defense, I think, more eyes on Duke football is needed right now, and that's what this game offers.
There you go. Week 2, the Lafayette Leopards come to town. Lafayette's not very good. That's a win.
That's a win.
Yes.
I think I can pretty safely and comfortably say that's a W. 1-1.
1-1, and then the Northwestern Wildcats and Pat Fitzgerald come into town. And look, this was a one-score game, but Duke kind of controlled the game. I remember watching this. I was in Vegas last year watching this game, but I think Duke should be favored in this one. Northwestern's always weird, though, because normally after like some terrible seasons, they'll pop up and win like 10 games.
Sure.
So maybe they're a lot better than what we think, but I got Duke winning this one at Wallace Wade. What are you doing here?
Well, Duke's won 4 in a row in the series, and 3 of those were Cutcliffe in a few of his last years where he couldn't beat hardly anybody, but he could still beat Northwestern. And last year was close in Evanston, but it was also week 2, so Duke was still getting used to a new system and a new coach and all that. So I think it's pretty clear Duke's the better team, and they're at home this year. So yeah, give me a W.
2-1, and now I think this is a critical game here. Jim Moore Jr., friend of the program. Hope you heard the introduction. Great guy, and they were supposed to be awful last year, and he goes 6-7, including his quarterback tearing his ACL in game 1, his 4-star transfer. So it started just 2 quarters. They went with the back quarter, still went 6-7. I expect them to continue to improve. So I find this game sneaky, especially because it's right ahead of the Notre Dame game. It's up at UConn, get twisted at the wrench. And I'm going to take Duke, but I could see an upset happening here.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think it's a tough game. So not only does Duke have 2 Power 5s at a conference, but they also their G5 game is on the road. Thankfully, the ACC and the Pac-12 seems like the only schools that will do this anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe the Big 12 a little bit also. But I'm going to give Duke the W. But no, I am concerned about this game because with so many big name programs on your schedule this year, a 19, 20-year-old could think a trip to UConn might be easier than what it is. But no, that program is also on the rise. This is 2 programs on the rise. Great game on the hardwood, too. But I'm going to go Duke. But no, I am concerned about this game.
I bet you this is a field goal game, man. When
Yeah.
you look at Duke, they lost to Georgia Tech last year. This is that one that could be the Georgia Tech game this year.
And could they be looking ahead for the next week when Notre Dame comes to town?
Certainly. And that's a game that I find interesting. And I actually think this game is winnable. Everyone's super high on Notre Dame. I get it. They get Sam Hartman. I'm a little I like Sam Hartman. If you've been listening to us for years, I had a great lineup in DFS for Sam Hartman. Won me a bunch of cash. But I am a little concerned of life outside of the Dave Clawson offense. And Notre Dame hasn't had these star wideouts. If anything, Wake has. And I'm just very curious to see how that's going to work this year. I know that the line of scrimmage, Notre Dame will be super sound, but I am a little bit concerned. Remember, Notre Dame lost to Stanford. They lost to Marshall a year ago. And another thing is Hartman came in thinking that he would have his OC, Tyler, or not Tyler Buckner, but
Reese.
Tommy Reese, and he jumps to Alabama like a month or 2 after that.
Yeah.
So you could have some dysfunction there, and I think this is much more winnable than the Clemson game. I'm going to take Notre Dame, but I think I would not be surprised if they pulled the upset there.
Yeah, so there's 2 home games in the stretch here. It's Notre Dame and NC State. There's also a bye in between those 2 games. I do have Duke winning one of these and losing one of them. It's 2 tough opponents, and again, it's not like the home field advantage is that much. It's not going to put Duke over the top really because there isn't a home field advantage. So I'll say they lose to Notre Dame and they beat NC State, but Duke could win both these games. Now, you could also argue they could lose both of them. That's fair as well, which is why I'm going to split the difference. I'll have the loss to Notre Dame and then beating the Wolfpack coming off that bye.
I agree. I have them, after the bye week, they play NC State. I think they beat NC State. It's in Durham. So
we're both at 4-2.
4-2. Now they got back-to-back away games at Doak Campbell Stadium in Tallahassee, Florida, and then at Louisville. Do you think they can go 1-1 in this stretch, Nick?
That's a tough. I mean, I think when we previewed this week where Duke plays Florida State, you gave me like the history of Duke and Florida State, and it is an ugly history if you're a Blue Devils fan. It's a lot of lopsided games, and then so also one thing making the schedules tough is that there's 2 sets of back-to-backs at Florida State, at Louisville is tough. I'm gonna take the conservative approach and say they lose both these games, which evens their record to 4-4.
I agree. 4-4. Then on a Thursday night, on November 2nd, they host Wake Forest. This game's awesome because you have the coaching angle. 2 good friends, coach for together forever. I think Wake Forest. Everyone thinks they're going to just be terrible without Hartman. No, I think they're still a contender, and I think they're going to be fine.
Yeah, they'll be fine. But Duke did beat Wake last year with Hartman, and they're going to do the same thing at home this year. Get back on the winning streak. Get back over 500, 5-4.
I'll join you on this one. 5-4. I think they can. Now they got another set of back-to-back away games at North Carolina. What do they call this? The Victory Bell, right? Don't they call it that? Keenan Memorial Stadium, the house that Lawrence Taylor built. Look, this game they should have won last year, man. They should have won.
And that's my main. I mean, I think both teams are probably about equal, but I think the deciding factor on who's going to win this year, I think, is Duke is going to be extremely hungry because they had every opportunity, maybe a questionable whistle down the stretch of last year's game, and that's why I think they're going to walk into Chapel Hill and get the W. No, come on, come with me. You know you wanna.
I can't. I got the Tar Heels winning this one, and that moves them to 5-5 for me. The win total is at 6.5.
I'm at 6-4. Now, the game you want on the second half of a back-to-back is at Charlottesville to face UVA. I don't think we have to spend much time on this. Colby believes UVA might actually go winless this year. Yes. They might pull a Duke from like 15 years ago. Duke, right. Yeah. So Duke has this W. I'm at I'm at 7-4 now. You're at 6-5.
6-5, and then they're home to Pitt. This is a game because Pitt, but this is one would Pitt would lose. Like on paper, I'm like Pitt's the better team, but
well, they at home last year, Pitt needed a 2-point conversion to win 28-26. So if they're better, I know they've been better lately, of course, but I don't think they're that much better. And you know what? I think it's at home. I think by now this Duke team is very experienced and they're firing on all cylinders, and they win the last 4 games of the season to match their record from a season ago. 8-4 again. Give me the over. I am a Duke fan, so
I'll take the over and say they go 7-5 because I think it's more likely they go 7-5 than 6-6. But this is certainly not one that I feel great about. I mean, I think they could get upset by UConn, and we're giving them NC State and Wake. I think those are tough, close games, rivalry games, and even giving them the potential Pitt game.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, this ACC schedule is so much harder than Duke is used to. Every 7 of the 8 ACC teams, other than UVA, could win the ACC. And if you look about, usually they would get 2 teams from the Atlantic. This year they get every good team from the Atlantic. They get Clemson, they get Florida State, they get Louisville, they get NC State, they get Wake. They only dodge Boston College and Syracuse, and They don't
Which
have
is
Virginia.
what you want.
Yeah, and they don't have Virginia Tech or Georgia Tech from the coastal from the old
or
coastal.
Miami. Miami sucks.
Yeah.
So
it's a much tougher conference schedule than Duke is used to. But and that's why you're seeing a 6.5 win total. But I think they can still clear that mark because I am very excited about the trajectory of this program. So what do you think is a disappointing season? Not making a bowl? Do you think 6-6 is still?
I think you're happy with 6-6 still.
Yeah, I'd agree, but I think 7 is where I think matching last year's record would be fantastic because the schedule is that much because the schedule's that much harder.
I think 6-6, you're in a bowl game, you're still happy, but 5-7, you say little setback. 4-8, you're like, okay, we got our work cut out for.
But then you wonder if last year was a flash in the pan. But especially with all the returning experience, I think you got to make a bowl game to keep it going in the right direction.
It's going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting. We're both on the over. I know he's a Duke fan. Look, before we get out of here, I had the opportunity to sit down with one Michael Barker to talk about his experiences to old Wallace Wade Stadium, which, by the way, Google image this thing. This thing looks really cool. This stadium looks really cool. So, with no further ado, here's that interview of Michael talking about his days down there at the, Wallace Wade Stadium. Joining us on the Duke Blue Devils 2023 season preview episode is one Michael Barker, a.k.a. College Football Campus Tour. You might know him as that. If not, you need to know him as that because on Twitter, I think he has the best page. Look, Michael goes to like 1,000 football games a year. All right. I shit you not, like 5, 6, 7 games a week sometimes. And he posts these awesome photos. If you follow the Twitter page, it's educational too. You'll learn certain things about the stadium. So I highly recommend it. And Michael, thank you for hopping on to talk about Wallace Wade Stadium. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. The record for most games in a year is 81 in 2021. So we try to go big, and one of those was at Wallace Wade Stadium back in 2021.
Wallace Wade Stadium. I know this is a very historical stadium, right? Like this has been around for quite some time, correct?
Yeah, built in 1929, so we're creeping up on 100 years old. It's changed a lot. When it was first built, it was called Duke Stadium, and in 1967 they named it after Wallace Wade, who was the coach at Duke. He also won a national championship at Alabama. It has 40,000 seat capacity. One interesting fact is that it hosted the 1942 Rose Bowl. They moved it from Pasadena during World War II. There was concerns that 90,000 people at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena would be a potential bombing target. And so they played it, and Duke was also a participant in the game. They ended up losing 20-16 to Oregon State, but that's the only Rose Bowl other than the one during COVID that got moved to Texas that's been played ever outside of Pasadena. In 2014, there was a major renovation done. They used to have a track. They removed the track, they lowered the field and added 4,000 seats to close the gap between the stands and the field. And they also built a new press box, which is really impressive. So historic stadium, and it's changed a lot recently in the last decade.
Yeah, and I'm hoping they take football more serious because I really believe with this stadium and the amount of money they spend, the NIL collectives they could have going there, they could be a power. Mike Elko just won 10 games, I believe it was, in his first season. They were like 16, 17 points away from being undefeated, which is crazy. I know they're recruiting really well right now. This is people don't realize Duke's got a long history of good football. Go back to like the early, years of college football. They were a very good program. Sonny Jurgensen used to be a quarterback there. Steve Spurrier used to coach there before he was with the Florida Gators and had players getting drafted left and right. So if they throw their money into this program, I really believe that they will have something. And I think schools are kind of waking up to the fact that football kind of moves the needle, even though I know Duke basketball is incredible. But as far as conference realignment and stuff, I think football kind of moves the needle. So hopefully we see that continue to develop. Hopefully, I know my brother, NC Nick's been to a few games, and sometimes, I think he went to an Alabama game where Alabama had more fans than Duke. Hopefully that changes. Tell me about your experiences going to Wallace Wade, man.
So I've been to one game at Wallace Wade. First of all, just going on campus at Duke is amazing. They got this giant cathedral on campus. You can tour. You can't get inside unless you know somebody, but you can go in the foyer, I'll call it, at Cameron Indoor. They used to have a track. The track team used to play in Wallace Wade. Now they have their own track stadium. They're perennial national championship winners in lacrosse. So a lot to tour. I've been to one game, like I said, it was 2021, and that was the year that I ended up finishing out seeing a game at all 130 FBS stadiums. Now we have 133, but that was 128. It was a Thursday night game against Louisville, and it was one of the most impressive individual performances that I'd ever seen. It was unfortunately by the quarterback of Louisville, Malik Cunningham, 303 yards passing, 224 yards rushing, and 7 combined touchdowns. They ended up winning 62-22 in a big blowout. And so I'm hoping I'm going back there. They're playing the opener against Clemson on a Monday night, and you're talking about fans taking over the stadium. It's a good chance, an opportunity for Duke fans to pack the house against a national power and have the TV audience all to themselves and hopefully make a good impression for the 2023 season.
Yeah, that's on Labor Day. They need to get out there and do that. That would be fantastic. And, man, Malik Cunningham, whoever played him in DFS that day, I think is probably a millionaire. Because, wow, what a performance, man. Yeah, I hope they do. Maybe I'll join you one of these times to Wallace Wade, because I've always wanted to go there. It looks cool, man. I was doing the Google images here. Never been to the stadium, but I've been to Duke's campus, and it looks like a cool stadium. I hope they do their best, and throw their money behind this program, because I really believe they got something cool there. Michael, I appreciate you sharing these experiences, and like I said, hopefully, one day I hope to see you at Wallace Wade Stadium, man.
I'll be there, and like you said, it's a great place to watch a game, 40,000, so it's a good setting for them, and hopefully it'll be a big sellout crowd whenever we get there.
There we go, folks. Everyone give him a follow on Twitter at CFB Campus Tour. And once again, you can watch this episode, youtube.com/thecollegeexperience. But yes, his page is absolutely fantastic. You will learn stuff about college football. Like anyone that loves college football should be following. It's like a must follow. So do that at CFB Campus Tour. Michael Barker, thanks again, my friend.
Absolutely. Thank you, Colby.
Thank you. All right. That was Michael Barker talking about Wallace Wade. They hosted the Rose Bowl, man. That's awesome. Got to get over there. Look, if you're in North Carolina, you got to stop by, check out the stadium, support good college football. All right. Look, I'm on the over. NC Nick's on the over. Labor Day, I cannot wait to see that Clemson game.
Let's do it.
Let's go. Give us a follow, folks. Remember, we're breaking down all 133 college football teams. Solo podcast for each and every team in the land. We do it each and every year. We've been doing this shit for years. Give us a follow, the College Football Experience. Give us 5 stars on iTunes if you can. We appreciate that. That helps us keep going. And, subscribe to the College Basketball Experience, because guess what? Me, NC Nick, Moneyline Mac, Patty C, Noah Beanick. When the college basketball season comes, we're here every single night. We talk college basketball year-round over there, but every single night of the season we are here. So Duke Blue Devil fans, John Shire is the right man for the job. Got a great team this year. We're going to be talking all about it. So subscribe to the College Basketball Experience and the College Baseball Experience. Duke's got a good team there too. So check out all that. Check out the FCS College Football Experience that I am also hosting as well. And we come together as one on YouTube, youtube.com/the College Experience. Subscribe, tell a friend. Check out the Sports Gambling Podcast as well. Get the SGPN app. It's free to download in the App Store and Google Play Store. You'll get access to our articles, our picks, all that good stuff. And don't forget about the Discord, all right? If you're just a big sports junkie, you love Duke baseball, Duke basketball, Duke football, hop in the Discord with us and talk about it, because we're in there talking about every sport out there in the world.
If you're a North Carolina fan listening to this to get some information on your rival, don't join the Discord.
SportsGamblingPodcast.com/Discord. We even welcome the rivals. All right. So get on over there. Check it out. All right. Look, I can't wait for Labor Day. But until the next episode, this is the College Football Experience, Duke Blue Devil style. You better start thinking about yours. And we out of here.